What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to episode 176 of the Designated Players Podcast. Double checking. Yep, I got that right. Go me. The secondary transfer window has just finished. As of yesterday at 12 p.m., I think it was, the window closed. In total, every team made at least one move. And since the close of the primary transfer window on April 24th, there have been 120 confirmed signings, and that's the majority of them within the last month and a half, 2 months. So what are we going to do? We're going to go through them all. We're going to talk about each team. We're going to grade their window or lack thereof for some of us. And we're going to go ahead and just share our thoughts. We'll do the Eastern Conference today. On Wednesday, we'll do the Western Conference, and you'll get a good idea of what we think about each and every team's moves. Tons of intra-league moves, which I love to see. Lots of loans, which we haven't seen a lot of in recent years. And a lot of really, really nice out-of-league splashes as well. I'm joined with my good buddy, Connor. Connor, how are you doing?
I wish I could tell you I was doing better, but I'm happy to. Oh, wait. You said everybody had to move. Well, you know what? This probably doesn't track everybody. Sorry, I've already gone off on a tangent. I'm doing all right.
Just all right?
Just all right.
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk about Atlanta United's transfer window soon, and we'll, you
Not
know,
sure that's gonna make me feel any better.
you know what'll make me feel better? Let's talk about scarves because scarves are wonderful. What do you
Yes,
got?
they are. If we're talking about transfers and we're talking about the Eastern Conference, there's only one team that you can bring a scarf to the table for, and that would be Inter Miami, the ones that absolutely changed the game this transfer window.
I don't really know if people are talking about that window. I think people are just complaining about that window. I think
Are they?
that's the only discourse that is about that window. It's not let's talk about what they did. It's let's complain about it. And we'll talk a little bit about the Columbus deal too. So I'm sure you've seen that already.
I honestly have no idea what you're talking about, unless you're
Wow.
talking. Well, maybe I know what you're talking about.
Wow. Connor, what do you do? Work? Get a
Yeah, something
life.
like that.
Get a life.
Haven't seen grass in a while. Haven't seen anything in a while.
um, I'm talking about a different Eastern Conference team that had, in my opinion, a fairly good window, bringing in another designated player striker. However, cutting ties with a legendary MLS goalkeeper. It's FCC, baby. We got wiener dogs.
Just admit you wanted to bring out the wiener dogs. That's the real reason why you picked FCC.
I mean, listen, who doesn't love a good wiener dog, right? All right, we're here. We've got a lot of teams to cover. Let's jump into it, and we will start. Let's start at the front. We'll start with Atlanta United. Four
Sure.
players in, three players out. In the door. Hold on one sec so I can get it organized properly.
Can't wait to see you pronounce this one.
Oh yeah, I see. I was gonna make you do it, but you said you weren't having a good day, so I wasn't gonna do that. In the
Well, I
door,
appreciate it.
on loan, forward Zonde Silva, midfielder Tristan Muyumba, designated player striker Saba Labzhandizai, Idze, Labhandizai. That's right. Connor's gonna triple captain that guy every week for the next 4 years. That's
Joke's on you. There is no triple captain.
ha. And then Jamal Thiare, a forward signed from Le Arve, 30 years old. Out the door, of course, Andrew Gutman over to Colorado. Marcelino Moreno's loan made permanent into Brazil. And the big news, Luis Araujo out to Brazil as well, Flamengo. Just want to know really quick for you, thoughts on the window, best move in, and then grade for the overall window. You can give me worst move out too, like which one you think is going to hurt you the most.
Ooh, I would say thoughts on the window is this just feels like the new norm for Atlanta. and that upsets me. It feels like every window, or I guess I'll say every year, just to be safe, for the last couple of years, it has felt like it is completely blow it up, bring in a bunch of new players, don't give them enough time to gel, players don't work out, blow it up, rinse and repeat, same thing all over again. You saw the same thing this window. The guys that came in, shown little bits of flashes that they can be successful, but never really were healthy enough to do so, or just got the game time to do so, are sold, and we do it all over again. And it looks like the theme this year was to raid France. We raided like every level of France. It was like, I feel like it was like the first division, second division. I think even the third division was, I think that's where Zonde Silva came from, what it looks like.
I got Dijon
Yeah.
for him, and I think they're second.
When I click on their team on Transfer Market, it says they're third tier.
Really?
I don't know how accurate that is, but um, regardless, do I feel great about the window? No, I don't. Maybe I'm in the minority as an Atlanta fan, but I am just tired of seeing this team get blown up, bringing in a bunch of new faces. Nobody gets the time to click. Nobody pans out, and then we blow it up again. I don't know where the magic from the first few seasons is gone. I thought we did a really good job of finding good talent from the South American leagues. And I think even recently we've had success with that. I mean, Thiago Almada is a superstar. He's probably going to break the MLS transfer record for transfer out. Um, and we just completely pivoted away from that. The one thing I will say about Atlanta, they have an uncanny ability to really like get a lot of money from guys that have just not panned out on the team at all. Like we talk all the time about South American Player of the Year, PT Martinez, and how Atlanta was somehow still able to turn a profit on that. Luis Araujo, according to Transfer Market, they got 9 million euros for him, which is kind of crazy to think about. Yes, they still took a loss on it. So I think they said they brought him in for 11.5 million euros, but to make 9 million euros back off of that for a guy that just never got it going here, that's not too bad. I gotta say they're pretty good at selling. I gotta admit. But yeah, I don't like the transfer window. I I just want to see some consistency from this team. I personally think the midfield is an area where we really need to address, and we barely did anything to address that. So if I had to give it a grade, and I know it's harsh, and I might just be being a pessimistic fan, but I'd give it like a D. I have
Wow.
not liked this window.
Wow. Just some notes. Dijon was relegated this season. So they did, I
From two
believe
to
they,
three, or
yep,
from 1 to 2.
from 2 to 3. So they went down 21 to 22
Gotcha.
from 1 to 2, and they did a second straight relegation
It did a
to,
Sunderland.
they did a Sunderland. Yep. Playing with
Gotcha.
the likes of Nimes, who I know from FIFA, playing with
Mhm.
Goal FC. Great
That's a
name.
great name. Yeah.
Versailles, aka Versailles. That's a Kentucky joke. Um, Listen, I agree with you. I think they have definitely pivoted out from this go raid South America and pay big, flip. But I also what I think that shows is how difficult it is to actually hit on those players. How many times have we come in and seen swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss, right? So here, maybe it's because the European leagues feel a little bit safer because everybody watches, whatever it may be. There might be something in there. But the South American League is always hit or miss because, as we've seen, you're either getting a world beater or you're getting somebody who looks really good and then can't adjust to the play. And that's for anybody, sure. But um, I just feel like in the South American players, I think it's been a lot tougher personally. Um, Good to see them add on that designated player slot for the striker there from Turkey. So hopefully he can come in, pair up with Gigi, Georgios,
Mhm.
Giacomakis, and do some good work there. Having that front three could be really good to have them back. That's my best transfer in. Do I think they're gonna not regret, but they're gonna feel the loss of Gutman the most. But even that isn't gonna be a bad one. I think Wiley will step in and be fine. I'm okay with this window. You've gotten a couple wide players, you've gotten a couple of attacking fixes. Your biggest issue, as I double check here to be sure, always to me was that back line. I think Moreno not being there was felt pretty hard. Maybe that they could have improved upon that, but yeah, you've got 39 goals conceded. That's the most in the league, right? Outside of Charlotte. And that's it. Charlotte's the only one who's beaten you there. So would have been nice to see them go and maybe pick up a couple more defensive minded players. I don't mind them going for the attack. It is MLS 4.0 after all. However, um, lots of players listed at forwards, and I think Tristan Muyamba's a wide.
Yeah, he's a defensive mid.
Oh, is he? Okay, that's a start. Um, yeah, I should have taken better notes than just midfield forward defense because that would have been nicer. Um,
Yeah,
no,
you're good.
that's perfect, right? Because you're gonna have now in this team looking at their setup. You got Sajic, Sosa, Alonso, who's 37 now, so you've made it younger. You've given it a little bit more experience, and then you can rotate in Rossetto to fill that space, and then designated player, wing player, designated player, striker, designated player, attacker, looking like a rebuild close to um, the first year, right? With designated player, winger, designated player, attacking mid, designated player, striker, right? So they're building the team as expected. I'm okay with this. I don't think it's a knock me out of the park window. But I think they got better. I'll give them like a B- C plus somewhere around there.
I I did forget to give my I guess best transfer in, worst transfer out.
Sure.
I am excited to see Sava come in. I think that's going to be someone that I think could definitely hit the ground running out of this group that we've brought in. I feel like he's got the best potential to come in and really hit the ground running. Uh, Worst one out for me, Franco Ibarra. I really thought he was gonna
Ah,
kind of break out a bit this year. Not necessarily break out. Like I don't think he'd become one of the best in the league, but I really thought this was going to be a good year for him. And I feel like he had a good start to the year. And then they loaned him out. And I know there was a reason. I can't remember why, but
it
I
was
feel
a
like
it was a roster rule thing. U22 signings,
okay, gotcha.
which is a
But
whole
yeah,
nother conversation we need to have about ways we want to see the rules changed.
I really wish he had stayed because I do not like this midfield at all. I know you mentioned the back line. I think there are good pieces in the back line, and there's certainly work to do back there. But I think Sosa has flopped, Rossetto has flopped. Alonso, like you said, is 37 coming off like a year-long injury. Sadic is decent, and that's all you got. So I think the midfield is in rough shape. I have no idea what to expect from Muyumba, but I am not super encouraged with the midfield situation. And I feel like it's needed help ever since Nagby left, and it has not been addressed.
No disagreements there. I think they know where it is, but I also think they recognize it is MLS 4.0. If you can score 7 goals and the other team scores 6, you still win the game. So,
That's
um,
true.
why don't we move on here to CF Montreal? I will let you go first here because I have links to share for our newest episode of Fun Game Friday.
Well, I don't know who you have fully on your list. I can go off of what I'm seeing
All
on
right,
transfer
let
market
me
right
let me
now.
run through what I have. You add anything left? So CF
Sure.
Montreal not doing a ton of work. However, they have added on striker Kwadu Opoku from LAFC and defender Fernando Alvarez from Pachuca, while allowing center back Rudy Camacho over to join Wilfred Nancy over in Columbus. Thoughts? Best in, best out, and grade.
Not a lot of activity, obviously. I personally, I really like the signing of Opoku. I think he showed good bits and flashes in LAFC. Granted, that's not super hard to do. LAFC are known for making people look good in the attack, but he's young, and this is a spot where he can now kind of break out of the shadow of Vela and Buanga, and this can become Opoku's team. This can become Opoku's attack. There are obviously strong attackers in this team as well. Kyoto, once he's healthy. Mason Toy has shown plenty of flashes to be successful in this team. Miljevic has good potential in the attack. I think adding him was fantastic. I really like that one. Losing Rudy Camacho and replacing him with a 19-year-old is definitely a good move as well. Get younger in the back line. I think they have. Obviously, Montreal itself hasn't been super strong this year. They're sitting 10th right now, just outside the playoffs. Granted, they have a game in hand on DC. So it's a bit of a quiet window. I think I maybe would have expected a little bit more just because they're on the brink of being in the playoffs. A little bit more might have given them that push to really solidify their spot there. But I can't really complain too much about the window. It's a pretty solid window. They didn't really lose anybody too bad. And I think they added a couple good pieces. So I think Opoku's the best in. Camacho's the only out. So obviously Camacho's the worst out. Uh, and I think grade wise, I'd give it a B minus, just because I wish they did a little bit more in the window so they could push for that playoff spot.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, so a little bit to break down here. I agree with you. It would have been nice to see something else. I feel like they were a little quiet for a team that's on the outside. And the one thing I always need to keep in mind with things like that is how much room do they actually have to work with?
Mm-hmm. That's a fair
I'm
point.
and I'm not quite sure what it is, and I'm not gonna, spend the time to look it up because that might take all day with how untransparent or for our scientific folk, how opaque MLS rules are with things like that. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I agree. I think the Apoku move is good. I think it gives them a different option up there from what they've had. Adding in another defender gives them a little bit of flexibility as well. It was a massive trade to get Opoku at 1.75 mil gam. The Rudy Camacho one is interesting. I know you mentioned you liked how they got younger. However, Camacho was the massive leader back there. He had um a really, really good. I'm trying to find the number of games he had. Go over to Who Scored, our good friends at whoscored.com.
Games this season or just games overall for Montreal?
This season. This season. I need to get a new computer. It goes too slow. What? What? Get out of here.
I've got Rudy at 19 starts, 20 appearances
Yeah,
for.
exactly. So lots of games for him, and now Joel Waterman, I think, has done very, very well. George Campbell, okay. Gabi Corbo brought him back on loan. He's not permanent there. So you go in with a center back that you might be able to flip later on. That seems to be another step forward for them. That's what they're looking for. I don't think Alvarez gets a ton of minutes right now, but it does give them options, right, when Corbo leaves, because I'm fairly certain he's on loan. Do 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 do. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. No, he's not on loan. Is a permanent. Okay. Loan last year, permanent. That changes things a little bit.
they're pretty deep at center back. They got a
They're
lot of
deep.
guys
They're
there.
deeper than I thought, and they're younger than I thought, so they can stick around for a while. So you're putting a lot of work on Joel Waterman
Yeah,
to
he's got to be that new leader in the back
yep,
line.
and he's done well. But my question now is going to be, can he do what he did with Rudy Camacho next to him without him?
You know what? I'm a little surprised they didn't address
Go ahead.
fullback depth. they look to be pretty thin. I know on transfer market they have ZBG and Herrera. I know Lassi Lapalainen's been playing, I think, as a wing back.
Oh, you know that name?
I do. Now I
No
know.
way.
I'll never forget it ever again now.
Ah, check out Fun Game Friday for that joke.
But yeah, they seem a little thin there, unless they've been playing some other guys out there that I'm not sure of.
Yeah, I think the only quote unquote letdown for me is, I'm scrolling down here, I'm looking at um transfer record over the last couple, months. They brought in 15 mil between Kone, Mihailovic, Alistair Johnston,
Mhm.
and they spent 2.5 of it. And it's not like they're not spending it on players, right? You got Bryce Duke is involved in there, Aaron Herrera. Excuse me. Um, and we don't know what they paid for Corbo, but it feels like you could have gone in and if I double check here really quick too, this feels like there might have been a big name out there for something, right? Maybe
Yeah,
not an outside back, but you're looking at Montreal, who's got
they've got two DP spots open,
two
I
B
think.
two DP slots still open, right? That's exactly what I was going to confirm. Yeah, they still have two open. So
Yeah.
what are you waiting for, right? This could
And
be a really good time to go in, get a designated player, use this last half a season, whether you make the playoffs or not, to acclimate him to the league and let him tear it up next year. Or now you're going to get him in, with the way that the visas work, with the way that the transfer the whole nonsense happens. You're going to get him in 3 weeks before your season starts next year, if that's the way you go with your transfer policy, and you're going to wait for him to get acclimated for 3 months before he actually starts producing, or you're going to hope that he's a hit from the start. I just don't know. It feels a little bit underwhelming. Um, I'll go C. I'll go flat C there for the grade, and I think best player in um Apoku and Camacho are your flip flops there. So
yeah, I feel like this team is the opposite of Atlanta. I think they have a really good supporting team and they're just missing the stars. Whereas Atlanta has the stars and is missing the supporting team. Like
yeah,
if this team came in and knocked it out of the park with like a really good, I don't know, number 10 and number 9, I think this team would be very tough to beat come MLS playoffs.
that is I like that a lot. That's a great little point. But we can't spend too much time on this because we have lots of teams to talk about.
I think
So
we already spent too much
I
time.
know, I know. So we will move on to the next team, which is any guesses?
DC United.
No, you missed one. Charlotte.
I just
Boo.
guessed. I didn't know we were going in order.
What do you boo?
I missed a
Uh,
few then in that case. Columbus is ahead of them too.
in the door, Justin Miram, Scott Arfield, Brecci Dejari. Yikes. And then Jerry Uronen are in the door for Charlotte in a busy window. And out the door are Andre Shinyashiki by mutual consent and Nuno Santos, Noon Menge, Noon Santos. I don't know. I don't know how you pronounce these Portuguese names anymore, but Santos is also out the door, sent back to Portugal. Didn't really pan out here, did he? There's a lot of hope for him, but it just didn't work, did it?
Feels like another young Portuguese midfielder that came here one time.
Whoa, look at you with the ball knowledge. Stop flexing, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
So they add in all levels of their team. So Jerry Uronen in the back, Brecci and Scott Arfield in midfield, and then Justin Miram in the attacking phase, right? So all of them permanent transfers. For me, I like it. I think that this shows that they know they didn't have the greatest start to the year when a lot of people thought they would be better than not better. And they could have sat down and said, you know what? It happens. We're just going to accept it. We're sitting in 12th. We're 4 points out of the playoff spot. We've given up 40 goals. Enzo Capetti might get off the mark. Let's see what happens. No, they went out and they put the players around him that need to do that. So really like that look for them. Shinyashiki had a really good start for them. when he came in, put up some really good numbers, like little flash in the pan, and then kind of died out. So clear some space with him getting out. Um, and then as we mentioned, Santos not really getting off the mark. So you've added experience and age in the midfield with Brecht and Scott Arfield at 32 and 34 to surround Brant Bronico, Chris Haggart, and now Ashley Westwood. So they've got a good experienced midfield three. Left back depth where Joseph Moore wasn't quite doing the deal, so they go and get a finished left back, very much MLS 3.0. We like that. And then yeah, you go and get Justin Miram. We talked about kind of moved in already to give you some experience up front. So they went with a bit more experience. I like it. I think they've definitely gotten better. And the players that they've let go have freed up space for these guys to play. I really, really think that left back is going to be the biggest addition for them in Jerry Uronen. I think 29 years old, good experience over in France. A lot of teams going to France, by the way. There's another one that did a big French haul. So big fan of the incomings. The outgoings are okay too. I think for me, the best player in, like I mentioned, is going to be that left back in Jerry Uronen. I'm excited for him to switch up that back line a little bit. And I'll say Andre Shinyashiki because he was a really good fun game Friday for me. Is my worst out.
Just for
Overall
fun game.
grade. Overall grade, give me B. Give me a B here. I like it.
Wow.
I like it. I like it. I'm all in on the Charlotte trade.
Wow. That's shock. You gave them a B and you gave Montreal, what was it? Like a C?
I gave him a B minus.
I think you said C.
No, I did. I gave him a flat C. Montreal didn't do it. We just talked about Montreal not doing the enough with what they had. We just talked about this.
I mean, I personally don't think Charlotte's done enough with what they've had, to be honest with you. I agree that Montreal hasn't done enough of what they had. I had transfer market was working a second ago. Now it just crashed. But
nice, you broke it.
I'm gonna go on a first name basis because I'm not even gonna try and pronounce those names that you just pronounced. I do think Jerry was brought in a position of need at that left back spot, but has not really played a lot. He had less than 1,000 minutes last year, and the year before that, he also had less than 1,000 minutes. So yes, he was in the French first division, but was not really playing much. Was also with Schalke at some point last year. Also did not play a ton. And I know nothing about him, so it's hard for me to comment on how successful he'll be, but at least it was in a position that seemed to be of need. So nothing really too wrong there. They seem to be going the geriatric route for the midfield. I don't know what is with the Charlotte and going with older midfielders. They have 3 midfielders now, 32 and older. I think they've seen what Atlanta had done in the goalkeeper position, and I think they got some inspiration from that. Scott Arfield has a backup at Rangers. Didn't play a ton. He had 1,056 minutes in 31 appearances, only 7 starts. Hasn't really been a consistent starter at Rangers since the 1920 season. Not the year 1920, 2019, 2020. So I don't really know what to expect with that either. And then Brecht seems to be a pretty decently exciting one. Was a pretty consistent starter for Toulouse. Seems to be a bit more of an attacking midfielder from what it looked like statistically. So that should definitely be interesting. I feel like that could be a good Nuno Santos replacement. Kind of assuming that Nuno was more of an attacking mid. Yeah, and then I would say Brecht has been their best addition. And then in terms of worst departure, I'm gonna go Shinyashiki, not because he's a fun day Friday favorite, but because I think he had the most impact out of him and Santos. For the window, I'm gonna flip flop with you. I'm gonna give them a C.
Okay. And again, it's all about what you look at, right? So for me, that midfield needed when you look at building a team and you look at the way that teams have done it, if your midfield three are young, but they're not world beaters, you're going to get beat. So it's not a terrible thing to have older players if they're the right older players. And I think Westwood's been a good addition. I was worried about his injury. He seems like he's okay. I think him and Arfield together are good. And then Brecht can be that third difference maker. The intelligence of when to step, when to slide, when to rotate of a 30-year-old player who's been playing the game for 10 years is just better of a 20 than a 21 or a 22-year-old player, even if they're high potential, more exciting. This is going to teach those guys to get better. It's going to give them a little bit more experience. Even Brant Bronico at 28 is going to pick up something new here and there and do a job. So I think you're going to see a step up just in the overall level of play. So that's where I am with
Sure.
them.
To your point, though,
I
to
don't
your
want to
point
hear it.
before, they have conceded the most goals in the league and only added one person in the back line. So didn't do a lot to address the defensive issues.
That sounds like a you issue.
That sounds like a Charlotte issue.
um, all right, we got another quick one coming up here in our friends of Chicago. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got one move and one move only. And I've got Usmani Doumbia or Usman Dubia, a looks like central defensive midfielder out of Lugano, FC Lugano, who is on loan, given a DP tag. And if they make him permanent, he will no longer be a designated player. So a little bit older, in a position of interesting, maybe not so much need, considering they've got Federico Navarro, Gaston Jimenez. Now, I did just see a report literally 30 seconds ago that said Gaston Jimenez is in talk with Boca Juniors on a move back to Argentina. So that may be where this one goes, is why it's there. And Alan Rodriguez at 19 years old may not be at the level yet, which is totally cool. Um, yeah, listen, for me, the team is sitting right outside, right inside the playoff line at a good 8-7-8, 31-31. They are the most bang average team you can have right now. So what do? You've got your U22 striker next to future Golden Boot winner Casper Shabilko playing up top, and the eternal Kai Kamara. Your attack is okay. You got Chris Mueller and Jairo Torres and Herbers on the wings. There's not a terrible balance there. Salese has been all right. Shaqiri is, when he decides to be good, is good. Your back line, long live Wyatt Omsberg. You've got Chicos, Pineda. You maybe could have gone a little bit more with a center back or two for just a little bit of depth. But Sequet's been good. Miguel Navarro's been good. Aceves, who is on loan, has been okay, good. Not terrible. 50% of the minutes in League's Cup. He's done a little bit more work in MLS. He's getting about a quarter of the minutes there. So you've got good balance in your back line. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to improve on your center mid depth, especially if one of them may be leaving soon and you knew that was coming. So I don't hate this. They didn't lose anybody massive. It's not like it's not like somebody came in and robbed Brady and Gutierrez of from Chicago and left them with nothing. So I think they've done well to hold on to them for at least the rest of the year. And with bringing in that guy, I think the DP tag is a little tough. I'll go C plus here.
The only people that have robbed Brady and Gutierrez is Chicago themselves. They robbed them of a World Cup ring, if that's what, I don't know if that's the right terminology. I'm glad you brought up the point about Gaston Jimenez, because on paper it looks like, why would you add him? But if Gaston Jimenez is out the door, like you said, then I think the move makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I don't think the DP tag matters too much, to your point of he would be off the DP tag if he came in next year.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a good. They brought him in, great. What do you do next? Is the next, the big one, because at the end of the day, the DP slots are there. If you're not going to add, you know, if you're not going to add somebody permanently on there, use
Yeah,
it part time and go.
exactly.
Love it.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna kind of go back to the point on Montreal a little bit here. Uh, wish there was a little bit more done, I'd say, in the back line, but to your point before, and I think it's a really good point that I hadn't considered prior. There just may not be a lot that they can do considering their current roster situation. Team looks to be pretty large, so they may not have been able to add much more. But considering they are only 3 points ahead of Montreal, who is just outside the playoffs, they're not comfortably in there at the moment. I think I mean, just off goal difference, the team seems to be a little bit more consistent than Montreal. So I don't think that they needed to make as many changes as Montreal would just to kind of build some consistency and really solidify their playoff spot. But maybe could have done a little bit more in the back line. Uh, Considering they didn't lose anybody, hard to give it anything below a C. So I'm gonna go C plus, just like you.
You are so good at copying. You're such a good guy.
I am. I am a good copier.
All right, let's then move on to a little bit more of a busy window in Columbus. So in the door for Columbus, center back Rudy Camacho. We've kind of talked about that already for 400K GAM. Yevon Cherbeko, a center back. Not known about the fee, but basically a swap for somebody they've lost. Julian Gressel in a trade for up to 850K GAM. And the big one, Diego Rossi, a designated player on the wing. They lost, as we've mentioned, Eloy Room, Milos Dejenik, and the big one in the loss column, Lucas Zelarayan. And this is where I was making that conversation with you was there was a rumor that had come out that they had asked to change the roster rules or the rules so that the max TAM number could go from 100 or 1,650,000 to 1.8 million. That would have allowed them to buy down Darlington Nagby and create a team with Darlington, Lucas, Diego Rossi, and Cucho. And MLS said, no, we're not making that change. And I kind of took the bait, and everybody was screaming and yelling, oh, this isn't fair. But at the end of the day, the roster rules are the way they are. They could have, found a different way. Maybe they could have found a different way around this, but unfortunately, they couldn't. But I think we'll have a whole conversation later on next week, maybe about roster rule changes and things like that, because this fits in pretty well here. Um, Thoughts on the window? Best in, best out grade. I'll let you go first.
Oh, what a busy window. Um, and what a team that would be if they were able to do that. Um, Best in, I do want to just go for the easy one and say Diego Rossi, but I do also very much like the Julian Gressel move. And I'm tempted to go with him just to be a little bit different.
Be unique, be niche.
Yeah. Um, you know what? I will go with Julian Gressel because I think Gressel did really well in Vancouver, meaning they had no choice but to sell him. Uh, I think he will do well in Columbus as well. He knows the league. He's been in the league for years now. Rossi obviously knows the league a bit as well, but has been out of the league for a little bit. And as we know, MLS is ever changing and ever changing quickly. So I'm sure this is not nearly the same MLS that Rossi had once left. I think worst loss. I mean, Zelarayan. This says on here they got 2.75 million. You sold them to Saudi Arabia, who is a absolutely burning cash right now to buy anybody and their mother. And you only got 2.75 million for a guy who's been in the MVP conversation for like 3 years now. And I know Zelarayan is 31 years old. He's on the wrong side of 30. But come on, you couldn't get more than that. I mean, this is assuming this number is right. But you couldn't get more than that for Zelarayan. You gave up your best player, one of the best players in the entire league, and that was the only return you got. Granted, I'm glad that they were able to bring in Diego Rossi and replace him. I think that's a fantastic signing, but that sale feels very disappointing unless there is extra context that you can bring in. Other than I understand the roster rules, they probably had to sell somebody, but
Yep. Well, and here's the thing, right? Um, with with things like this, it it it's a good look in a way that this happened and it came to light because it shows that there are owners that are willing to do the spending to bring in good teams and good players, which shows you that there isn't this group of people saying, oh, everybody wants to spend without any proof, right? We have the proof here saying teams want to make this money or make these teams spend this money, put out this group of players. Their fans want to bring them in. It'll bring more fans. They're not afraid of the risk. Let's do it. And now they're being held back rather than lifted up by these roster rules. So it is something that I think will be a focal point when we talk, excuse me, when we talk about changes, when we talk about ways that the league can adapt to what we're doing, because I think we're ready to take that next step, but that's um another step up completely. Um Give me 1 second here. So my best group here. So I agree wholly with your comment about the return as well, right? There is, and I was just looking. MLS Gone Wild's done really well about reporting these moves. Obviously being a Crew supporter, and he's got some good contacts. And I found a tweet here that basically said, with Zelarayan, it's been reported anywhere between 2 million and like 8 million on any given day. So there's no transparency. There's no idea about what the money is, but under under the 10 mil mark for a player like that feels a little low for what Saudi Arabia is paying people and for where we want the league to go. I think back when we really weren't producing players or weren't making these switches, anybody worth 5 million was like, whoa, we're awesome, right? But now we've got this base of players that I think can probably be pushed for double digits, which one will increase revenue coming into the league, right? But two, it will also say, listen, if you're not going to go, we're going to keep you here and we're going to make the quality of our league better. We're not just going to keep flipping the best one. We're going to hold on to some of them until the price is right. And that's another, catch 22. People will be upset about it, but it's good for the long-term investment of the league. So, um, you talked about Julian Gressel. I think that's a great under the radar move with all these other moves coming in with the Zelarayan Rossi change, right? He's going to add so much to Wilfred Nancy's system. Um, he's running two very good center backs that'll fit his group and sent Dejenik home, which he didn't really pan out for what they wanted to do. Eloy Room was never getting time, so they got that salary off the book. And then to fund the Diego Rossi move, they had to get rid of Zelarayan. So overall, really like the window. I'm thinking one of the better windows in the league this couple months. I'll say, you talk about Gressel. I'll say Diego Rossi is the best guy in for me. Lucas Zelarayan, of course, the biggest out. But it's that one really washes itself out. Grade for me. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go grade. Give me an A minus. Because I really like how the additions that they made were not just names. They did it to fit a system. Wilfred Nancy said, I need players who can do this, and he went out and got them. And I love that.
yep, I am. You got to criticize me again, but yes, I am right on board with an A minus. Only thing keeping me from an A is that Zelarayan sale.
Why would I criticize you? Is my pick.
Well, you're just gonna say I'm copying you.
Well, you are, but it's okay to copy greatness. All right, let's move on to another relatively busy window in DC, in the nation's capital. Moving in, we've got attacking player Jose Fajardo from Atletico Independiente on transfer. Left longtime CONCACAF left back Eric Davis from a team in a country I have never heard of. Eric Hurtado comes in from San Antonio. Gabriel Pirani from Santos on loan, a little Brazilian midfielder, and then Christian Dejome from Vancouver up to 550K GAM on trade there. Vancouver's a team we're going to talk about later, but they confuse me. And the only player out, Victor Paulson, came in on a DP contract last year, was bought down, and then transferred out. He was kind of a centerpiece in this transitional period for DC to get their players in. He was a good service piece, and now he's gone. For me, I think Wayne Rooney at this point sees a team that he brought in just barely in the playoff line, not scoring a ton of goals. And he says, I'm going to do what I can to get that done. So in comes attacking players, right? Gabriel Priani, I believe, is more of a winger or a number 10. I'll double check that. But you get an MLS veteran in Eric Hurtado. Gabriel Priani is an 8-10. So, gives you a little bit of attacking midfield creativity. Eric Hurtado and Christian Dejome, both MLS experience in the attacking phase. And then some other, Eric Davis gives you some strength at left back for a team that really it doesn't really, I'm not going to say needs it, but it doesn't hurt to have experience in that position, especially when you're going into a playoff push. And then Jose Fajardo is, 29 years old, played in the Peruvian league, but has shown pretty decently there as well, looking at 6 goals in the Apertura last season in just under 1,400 minutes. So Wayne Rooney really making a push right now to go and get his side into the playoffs for the first time in what seems like forever for DC United. I enjoy the desire. I'll use the term desire to show that. Will it pay off for anything? I don't know. We'll see. They did lose Lewis O'Brien, which is a not so great loss. I don't know about this one. Like they're bringing in the players, but I'm not. We talked about DC United needing the time to gel because Rooney did a full revamp, and now he's adding 5 more players in and 2 players out, and it does feel a little unstable. So I don't hate it. I like the MLS experience. Biggest player in for me, I'm gonna go Christian Dejome. I think having that experience on the wings will do them well. And then of course Victor Paulson, the only one there. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and think that Wayne Rooney can put this together, and I'm gonna give them a C+.
Okay. I don't get it. I'll just say that. I don't get the window. I look at the guys that they brought in, and I just don't see. I feel like a lot of them are just maybe band-aids to cover up some slight issues at the moment. I think Pirani probably has good potential in this team, probably the largest potential of anybody that's come in. And I know it's just a lone move right now, but I mean, they brought in, I guess, 2 strikers, like you mentioned, Hurtado and Fajardo. Granted, they already have like a bajillion strikers on this team, and none of them are displacing Christian Benteke. That's for sure. Probably wouldn't be displacing Taxi either if Taxi was not suspended. But I mean, you have Nigel Robertha, Jackson Hopkins, and now you added 2 more strikers, and that's just the list of backups. Then you added a left back where you're also have a bunch of players at left back. Granted, Mohamed Giaz. The guy that they added in this offseason is listed as hurt right now. I don't know how long he's out. So maybe that's like a temporary left back situation with Eric Davis. But you do have Jacob Green and Samake as well. Pirani, I think, is my best transfer in because I just think he could have the most impact. I think his ceiling is the highest. And then worst transfer out, Lewis O'Brien. I thought he was a really nice piece for them. And now they've lost that, and I don't think they've replaced that very well. So I don't really get the window. I appreciate that they're willing to try and make moves, especially on the border of the playoffs, but I just don't understand. I don't get the moves. I'm sure DC fans, maybe they understand it a bit more. They know their team better, but I'm gonna give it a C.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be tough. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, which I shouldn't do because I hate them all. But it's definitely a window of let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, right? That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. All right, let's go and move on here. Let's go to FCC. Designated player Aaron Bupenzda. We spoke about him. We did the Saudi Arabia episode. And then
Yeah.
two homegrown-ish type signings from FCC2 in Gregaro Valenzuela and Brett Halsey, a midfielder and a defender. So really only one player of note in, but when you're at the top of the table, you don't really need to make moves. You just need to replace who you've lost. And the only person that they didn't replace is our Lord and Savior Kenneth Vermeer, bought out, mutually contract terminated. And then Brenner sent over to Italy. So a like for like switch up top, couple of youth players in, held on to BV, held on to LA. I mean, what more can you give it, right? I think they made money on Brenner. They took that money, they invested it back into Aaron Bupenzda, and he's already showing very similar to what Brenner was doing. Um, Listen, I'm there's not a lot to talk about in this window. They've gone out. This is what I will say is this is the type of spending that is expected of the league we want to be. And I'll try and keep this short because I can go on forever about this. But if we're going to be a selling league, we also need to be a buying. And by that, I mean we can't just hope for players from the academy to come up and switch on. We have to invest and flip. So teams like LAFC, teams like FCC that are taking these teams like now Columbus, right? So taking players that are worth a lot of money, selling them on, and then reinvesting. That's the big one that a lot of people are a lot of teams are missing here. And I will point out Red Bull, of course, NYC, as of like every day before 2 days ago, was in the same boat. Selling your players is great, but if it means that we can do it without having a full reset and missing the playoffs for 3 years, that's what we should be aiming for. You know, the LAFCs are doing that. FCC did that very well, letting go of Brenner and then instantly picking up another designated player forward who can do the job. That's what the future of this league looks like selling wise. To me personally, that's what it looks like. So happy with that. Again, there's not a lot to talk about because of the money made and the player coming in. I'll go C plus again, B minus, anywhere between there. Biggest in, biggest out. We just talked about it, Bupenzda and Brenner, but I don't think there's a lot to talk about outside of the fact that they are doing what is expected of them.
Okay. Obviously, this window is basically just it's essentially one player in, one player out, same position, everything else stayed the same. And that makes sense. You're the top team in the league, and it's not close. You're running away with the supporter shield right now. Do not change anything. Keep everything the same. Don't fix what's not broken. So I can only go off of what is being shown on transfer market right now in terms of numbers, and it could very well be wrong. So please let us know if that is the case. But I am disappointed with the fee that is being shown for Brenner because it's showing as 10 million euros. And again, I don't know if that's accurate, just going off what I'm seeing here, which is less than what they're saying that they paid for him. They paid 11.82 million euros, according to this. For a guy whose stock I thought for sure rose when he was in MLS, especially from that last season. He blew up that attacking trio. He's 23 years old. His potential was huge. I really think that they could have and should have got more for him. Granted, I'm not a Cincy supporter. I don't follow all their stuff. There's probably information in there that I am missing. But just going off of everything that I'm seeing in front of me, it looks very disappointing. I think bringing in Aaron Bupenza is phenomenal, though. That is a fantastic replacement to bring in. Spends a big chunk of that Brenner money, but this is a guy that bangs in goals for fun. In the 2021 season for Hatayspor in Turkey, he had 22 goals in 25 starts. That's outrageous. And then in the Saudi league, he had 11 goals in 15. And he's already got a goal in 16 minutes in just MLS play, not counting Leagues Cup. The guy knows how to score goals. He's going to come in. He's going to fill that Brenner hole, and FCC is going to continue to run away with Sport Shield. So FCC did nothing wrong in this window other than, I think, selling a bit low on Brenner. So I'm going to go with a B plus. I know they didn't really do much, but I don't think they needed to do much. I think they replaced the guy that they sold very well. So I think it was a good window for them.
What I'll say about the Brenner thing before we move on is $10 million fee straight up, plus add-ons and a sell-on percentage. So the tough part about what we look at here in MLS, right, is we bought for this much, we sold for this much, and that's it. That's all people think about. That's all people wonder about. And for me, I think that this is actually good. You know, if they did this for 5 million plus add-ons and a sell-on, then I'm upset about it. But the add-ons, I don't know, you know, they'd never come out and say what they are. But I don't think FCC, I don't think the ownership of FCC is letting this guy move on unless they're confident that they can make a profit on him or at least money back. So if that sell-on percentage is 5% and he goes on for 20 million to, you know, Arsenal or whatever, that money comes back and they're now profitable, right? I am okay with the money they spent because of the add-ons. Now, this isn't FIFA. It's not like you're never going to see it back. This stuff actually does come back eventually. So, not as disappointed as you are personally.
We gotta aim high. We gotta set the bar high. And when I see moves like Miguel Almiron moving for 24 million, do I think Brenner is that far off of Miguel Almiron?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I think Almiron's better, 100%.
Yeah, by a lot.
Do you think Almiron is 2.5 times the player of Brenner and has 2.5 times the potential of Brenner?
You're asking me to compare the price of two different players for two different teams in two different leagues, right? You're asking me to compare what a Premier League team with more money than bloody Saudi Arabia has. Actually, no, it is Saudi money, isn't it? It's
Yeah, it's
Newcastle.
the same money that's
versus a team in Italy who the Italian pyramid right now is a nightmare. You know, they've had over 200 clubs declare bankruptcy in the last 23 years. So, that's a completely different situation. And I think the sell-on percentage and things like that make this an okay deal.
I think they could have done more for it. I mean, the guy had 18 goals, 6 assists last season at 22 years old.
Yep.
It's huge potential, and he proved that he can do it. And I think, I mean, Chicago sold Duran for, and I get Duran is younger by a few years, but they sold him for 16.6 million euros. And he did far less in this league than Brenner did. I think you could have done more. And to your point, I get that the Italian league definitely doesn't have the finances of the Premier League. Then wait, someone else will be interested. You're telling me if Brenner doesn't stay this season, that he's not still balling out while this team is top of the supporter shield? There's no way he wouldn't be.
Nope. I'm like I said, I think the deal is better than you're giving it credit for, but maybe they could have done better. Let's move on into a team that definitely should have done better this window. Inter Miami.
Oh wow.
I don't think I've did they do anything this window?
Um,
Oh, they let Rodolfo Pizarro go, their best number 10 in the league.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Comeback player of the year, Rodolfo
Comeback
Pizarro.
player of the year, Rodolfo Pizarro. He's coming all the way back to not be in the league anymore. Um, should we just give this an A and move on?
Yeah, I mean, is there anything to talk about?
What's the point? We'll recap it. David Ruiz in on a homegrown contract. He's done very well in a very injured Inter Miami midfield. But he won't get much time because of this guy, Sergio Biscuits. Yeah, that's how you pronounce that. You also had a young left back in Noah Allen. He's no longer playing because of Jordan Alaba.
Is he related to David Alba?
I think so. They must be brothers or something.
Uh,
Facundo Farias, a midfielder from Cologne. Diego Gomez, a midfielder from Libertad. Thomas Aveles, a center back from Racing Club, which is rumored to be the most expensive defensive signing in league history. And then some other guy from Argentina, Lionel Messi.
they're raiding the French league again, huh?
They are these
French
guys,
rejects.
French rejects. I know. Um, the only thing that we really should talk about here is this the greatest transfer window of all time? And I find it hard to disagree with that.
I haven't done my research enough on every transfer window, but it's hard to say that it's not.
Correct. And again, we will have a full discussion on what this transfer window means to the league and the future of the league as we move forward, maybe next week. But um, here's my favorite part about this is it's not all old rejects, right? It's not all, and I use rejects lightly, of course. These guys are phenomenal players, but it's not all Lionel Messi, Busquets, Alba. We're not just taking, we're not calling Danny Alves. I'll be like, hey, 40-year-old Danny Alves, you want to come play with us too, right? They're mixing in this youth movement too. Diego Gomez, Facundo Farias, Thomas Aviles, excuse me. These young Argentinian guys who are going to combine and play with these guys and learn from their style and get better and move on and sell on. It's a good look from Miami. The focus is always going to be, Lionel Messi, Busquets, Alba, retirement league, blah, 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 blah. But then you bring these guys up and you're like, oh, they're building a base too, right? They've already had a really good show with the Miami 2 kids coming up and playing. They're filling it up with these younger Argentinian players. They are making moves to do something different this year. And here's the thing, right? People are always complaining, oh, look, they're changing the rules for Inter Miami to do whatever they want. Maybe. Did that give LA Galaxy a 5-year head start when the DP started? Maybe. But guess what? Those with the desire to step the boundaries and push the league forward will get rewarded from, right? And that's something that owners need to understand is like, yeah, it's going to suck. But if you were, sorry, Colorado, you're not pulling Lionel Messi. I promise you. Like, even if you put all the money in the world, even if you let Apple pay for the whole thing, Lionel Messi's not living in Colorado, bro. I'm sorry. It's just the way it works. But here's the thing. They are doing a really good job of pushing the boundary and then creating a layer underneath to take it to the next level. I love this window. Rodolfo Pizarro had to go to make room. We get it. Whatever. Inter Miami, A+, best player in David Ruiz. Yeah.
Who?
Exactly. Lionel Messi, obviously. Yeah. Anything you want to add on that?
No, I mean, I think you covered it really well. Exactly to your point. Everybody's looking at it as Messi, Busquets, Alba coming back in, and those are obviously the big names. But there is a very quiet but sneaky good window underneath all of that with Farias, Gomez, and Aviles. Like, fantastic. These guys are literally, I think the oldest of the three of them is 20. And I was just checking. I think Farias and Gomez already have a number of uh playing time at 20 years old in top leagues, I think in Argentina and Paraguay. And then Aviles was getting, I think he already had 8 starts for Racing Club, who's one of the top teams in Argentina at 18 years old. That's outrageous. No
Yep.
wonder they spent like 6 million to get him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I A plus. I don't even know if I've ever given an A plus, but this is an A plus window.
I
If there's
kept it
ever
there.
an A plus to give, it's this one.
I kept it at an A because I didn't know we were going to A plus. But yeah, I'll go A plus too. That's fine.
I'm
Um,
willing to break the rules, just like Miami probably is.
love it, love it. Hey, so we will do a full episode on transfer window, things we want to see change, what it means for the league, all that sort of stuff. Now that the window is officially closed, we'll talk about that as we move forward here. So make sure you subscribe for that so we can share that with you. Moving on, we'll head over to Nashville because they're now back in the East, I think. They are. I know they are. Um, they continue to move around. Who knows? Next year, maybe they'll bounce out west. Who is it? It's San Diego. San Diego can play in the East for a year. Come on, let's have
Yeah,
some
I
fun.
mean Red Bull played in the West at some point.
No, they. I got to teach you ball. They were placed there based on a old MLS rule about the last 3 playoff teams in the wild card being placed in different.
You're going on no tangents.
I'm going on a tangent that you don't even care about because you are a bum. All right, so we are in Nashville, Music City. Homegrown signing 17-year-old Adem Sipic, and then a designated player striker, Sam Surridge from Nottingham Forest, in the door. They also terminated or agreed on the buyout of Ake Loba and sent Jan Gregus out, I believe, back to Minnesota. Yes, they did. So freed up some space in midfield for somebody who wasn't getting a ton of minutes. I'm big fan of this Sam Surridge move. I think his size and comfortability, making new words here, um, with the system that Gary Smith could play, right? It's a 4-4-2. Get the ball high and support it, move the ball out the back, and I think he will do really well there. He's got great size. He's 6'3", gives them something a little bit different to Teal Bunbury, Ethan Zubak, um, allowing the ball to go high, support it, and Hani Mukhtar just to run off underneath it and play. I think it'll be a really good look. Jan Grey Goose clears up space in a midfield with Anibal Godoy, Sean Davis, Taha Nunga, Dax McCarty. So you still have 4 really good options in there. He was excess to requirements, and they got a good haul for him. The question is going to be, do they have enough pieces to make the splash in the playoffs? I don't think they should have any issue making it into the playoffs. I think we both agree on that. They're fantastic defensively, sitting at 22 goals conceded, which is by far the lowest in the league by like 4 or 5. Which is great. They're strong in the back. They're pretty good going forward. Is Sam Surridge the guy to unlock the potential? I don't know. We'll see. I'm not quite sure. I think his time, he's got 17 goals in the championship, 16 goals in League Two, 1 in the Premier League. So definitely more of a hold up setup guy. You know, he's played 200 games, 52 goals. So he scores once every 4 games, give or take, which is an okay-ish return from a striker. But I truly think that this is going to be a get him in, find him high, let him hold the ball up, and go support it guy for Hani Mukhtar just to run off and play, much like CJ Sapong was their first year. I like it. I like the addition. I don't think they need to do much in the back or in the midfield. B minus.
I've said it in other episodes before. I said there's one thing that Nashville needs to go and get, and that is a striker. And do I think Sam Surridge is the answer? Honestly, I don't know. Looking at his numbers leaves me a little leaves what's the saying? Leaves a little bit more to be desired. Uh, the only thing numbers wise that's giving me some hope is the 7 goals he scored in the championship in 620 minutes, which is an outrageous return of a basically a goal every 90. However, he just has never been a consistent starter basically anywhere. I think the last time he had even remotely consistent starts was when he was at Oldham in League Two in 2018, 2019. He started 10 out of 15. That has me a little concerned, but I am at least happy that they are addressing the issue that has been outstanding for a while for this team. The one spot that we and many other people have said that they needed to improve. They are the best defensive team in the league. That is a combination of both their midfield and their defense. And they lacked in the attack because the entire attack was Hani Mukhtar. Hopefully, Sam Surge is the guy that can help him out. So I'm glad that they're at least taking a shot on it. I'm gonna give the window a B. I'm not too sure on if Surge is the answer, but I'm happy that they're at least looking in the right direction.
You are absolutely right. That is something you have talked about ad nauseum. You say it pretty much every window. Where's the DP striker? Where's the DP striker? Then they bring in Ake Lobinger, like, this guy sucks. Where's the DP striker?
Yeah.
They are going out. They know what they needed, and and credit to them too that they're not just finding anybody with a big price tag and saying, "Hey, he'll work." They took the time, found it out, and like I mentioned, it's there's a reason for it. They're gonna let him go high. Hani's likely gonna fall underneath, hit the ball, let him hold it up with his big 6'4" frame. Let Hani pick it up, and then you got Schaffelberg and Pico on the wings crashing in. They're gonna figure it out. I'm happy with it. We move back to the Northeast and New England, where not a terrible window, but relatively quiet. They brought in Ian Harkes from Hearts on a transfer. Another Harkes playing for Bruce Arena, who may not be playing for Bruce Arena much longer after some of the reports we've come out. Traded for Mark Anthony Kaye from Toronto and a 15-year-old homegrown midfielder, Peyton Miller. Out the door, Josie Altidore has been bought out, and Latif Blessing goes the other way in the Mark Anthony Kaye trade. I'll let you go first on this one because I'm kind of split. I'm not quite sure on this one.
I feel like there's more to this window than just the names in and out are showing. Obviously, there is the massive drama with Jordy Petrovic.
Yep.
Which is, I mean, at this point, it's like a loss. And when we're talking about a loss of Jordy Petrovic, we are talking about a massive loss. We're talking about a loss of arguably the best goalkeeper in the league. So I feel like I have no choice but to somewhat factor that in. Granted, I am glad. I can't remember what the offer was. I feel like it was kind of low, if I remember right. Do you remember what the offer was for Petrovic?
It was not at the level that they wanted. I think it was single mill digits, and I think they wanted double. But that's my best guess.
It was from Forest too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'm glad that they're aiming high on selling on him. I think he has a really good sell potential. He is a top goalkeeper in this league. They knocked it out of the park finding him. Granted, now they're kind of getting hurt by it because he's not playing anymore, and that definitely hurts a bit. The rest of the window, I
Here, there is one I forgot to add that popped up late here in
yeah,
Tomas Chancalay.
yeah.
Chancalay, the winger from Racing Club. He's slipped under my radar.
I was just about to mention him. Very,
Nice.
very un-Bruce Arena-esque signing.
There's
He's
a
not
reason.
like
There's a reason he's not on the sideline anymore.
not an aging former USMNT star, so very, very unlike Bruce Arena. I don't see New England obviously is very strong, will almost certainly be a playoff team. I don't think that I mean, obviously they didn't lose much. Granted, I guess we're counting Petrovic as a loss. Blessing for K, I think probably at the least probably cancels each other out. I don't. There's so much stuff about Mark Anthony K that I'm very confused. I mean, I always thought of him as a very solid MLS midfielder, and then all the Toronto fans were talking about how like all these issues with Mark Anthony K, and now it makes me question that. Um, Blessing was obviously like a great kind of Swiss Army knife, do it all kind of guy. But I think Mark Anthony K is a good like for like replacement. I think Harks is a solid addition, very Bruce Arena esque, very fits into the team. Tomas Chunkale is going to be a very interesting one. Very curious to see how he's used in this team. I think he's got the highest ceiling out of all of them. Uh, and I guess I'll pick him as my best move of the window because I think he could have like high potential in this team. And to add, if he does pan out, to add him to Gustavo Bo, Vriani, and Carl's heel would be unreal. That attack would be lethal. But overall, if I'm considering Petrovic as well in there, assuming this continues to linger on and there are continuous problems, I gotta say maybe like a B minus on the window or a B. I'm kind of in between the two. I just think if you lose Petrovic or if there's even if just the relationship gets damaged enough that they lose a ton of value on him, I think that hurts a lot.
I will tell you that they have absolutely ruined that already. Everything I'm reading about this is he is furious. He will never play for the team again, and he should have been sold when they had the chance. Because I'm sure they sold him the dream that they sell everybody. You're coming here for 2 seasons, and we're going to sell you. And then when they said no, we're not going to sell you, he lost his mind. Rightfully so. I don't know. Depends on what happened behind closed door. Here's the thing. You're second in the very much like FC Cincinnati. You're second in the East. You've got 28 goals conceded, 42 goals scored. I mean, you haven't lost a game at home. What more do you need to add, right? I think Ian Harks was a good addition. Mark Anthony K solidify that midfield a little bit. Um, Thomas Chankale, let you pronounce that as you will. Not a bad move either. The team is solid back to front. The biggest one for me, as you mentioned, is Jordy Petrovic. I'm counting this as a loss. I don't think he plays for the team again, and they didn't get anything out of it. This is not good.
Yeah. Agreed.
This is like what's the opposite of good?
Um, Toronto FC.
There you go. I love it. Throw the gas on the fire. Good. Um, yeah, that is the biggest one. This is a terrible time for New England to implode. You're chasing in the Shield standings. Granted, you probably weren't going to catch him anyway, but you're chasing in the Shield standings. You're trying to solidify at least the second spot because I'm pretty sure the second spot is now in this new uh Champions Cup or however they do it. Second spot matters. So now you're trying to hold off Philly and Nashville and Orlando. And you're going to go ahead and I get why they wanted to hold on to him, by the way, because of that push. However, if this is going to happen, you have to let him go. And I get you want to get the most out of it that that you can. It's a business, and you have to look out for yourself, and I get it. But this is not a good look for them. Um, Taking that into account, I don't think there was much to do with the Jordy Petrovic and the Bruce Arena on the sideline and or not on the sideline anymore and all this other nonsense. C minus because of all that extra stuff. You take away the Bruce Arena and the Jordy Petrovic, B minus. But with all the other stuff going on, I'm not a fan of how they're doing this.
Yeah. To your point, if he definitely doesn't ever play for New England again and they lose all the value on him, then yeah, I would definitely drop it down to like a C minus as well.
Right, because that's the whole point. That's the whole. You bring him in to replace Matt Turner. You go ahead and say, we are going to. Um, hold on one second. I'm just transferring my thing here. We are going to bring you in. We are going to make you, the number one guy. We're going to sell you on. You had money for him. What'd they pay for?
Like they paid like less than a million,
Yeah,
or
they
about a
got.
million.
Let me see, 909K from a Serbian team, and you can flip him for 8 mil, and you didn't because of you wanted 24 mil or something. Like, I get
Well,
it, but I also don't get it.
to your point, also, maybe it's because they're a very strong team right now. They can push. I mean, it's unlikely, but they're still technically in like the supporter shield hunt, MLS Cup, Leagues Cup. Like, there's still a lot to play for in this season. Maybe they didn't want to lose him right now. I mean, maybe the money was part of it too, but I can kind of see it from New England's side. Like
Does
losing
it
him
make
mid-season sucks. It would hurt a lot.
right? Does it make sense to do what they did just to lose him for nothing? Let him, because he'll sit out and try and terminate his contract and whatever.
Well, maybe they didn't know that when they rejected it.
You don't get, this is not, you know, high school soccer, buddy. You gotta they gotta know this. Anyways, excuse me. Um, yeah, that is another thing. We'll probably end up talking about that later. Let's go on to the future MLS Cup, Leagues Cup, Supporter Shield champions.
Nope, not gracing you with an answer on that one.
The New York Red Bulls, the mighty, mighty Metro, who have done killer work this window. I mean, this is the work of champions here. 18-year-old Ronald Doncourt from Guidaras FC. 19-year-old striker Jorge Cabezas Hurtado from Watford on a 6-month loan with zero purchase option. And losing their best central midfielder in Christian Cáceres for $1 million to Toulouse. Uh, how does one speak on things like this? So here's where I'm gonna go with this. I'm going to say that the New York Red Bulls have a fantastic defense and didn't need to worry about adding there. And I'm okay with that. They, maybe a bit of center back depth. I think we're okay there. We needed to add in the attack. Dante Van Zier has not gotten off the mark. All issues aside, of course. Oh, I forgot Mina too. We got Yerry Mina's brother, Juan Mina. So we added a right back to fill in for Dylan Nealis, who's probably done for the year. He had a pretty bad injury and needed that fixed up. We've got minimal left back depth, but John Tolkien is eternal. Central midfielders. Ronald Doncourt fills that spot. Luquinhas has done well. We've been okay with central midfielders. It hurt to lose Cáceres, but at least we got something for him. And then we go to the attack where we are just poor, poor, poor. Tom Barlow is still a major league striker. We brought in a 19-year-old player on loan who has played a total of 10 games this season for a total of 370 minutes for Independiente de Medellin. He was in Watford. He got loaned to Medellin, and now we're his second loan. So this guy at 19 years old has 700 or 370 minutes of professional football, and he is our answer for the for the striker woes that we have.
It's Cucho. They're thinking it's Cucho Hernandez 2.0.
They're thinking something. I don't know. I don't quite know what they're thinking, but
Are you sure they're thinking?
And honestly, I don't. Here's the problem. They came out at the beginning of this window and we said, "Hey guys, we are leading the league in most goals missed per expected goals. We're like -10 on the expected goals to goals ratio. You guys want to go find a striker and maybe sort that out? And they looked us dead in the eye and said, no, not really. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. And then they went in and rushed a loan signing for a 19-year-old who's got 400 minutes. Then they went in and they were like, you know what we haven't done in a while? We haven't signed a brother of a really good player. So let's go call Yerry Mina's brother and bring him in. How many minutes does Yerry Mina's brother have? I think he's got a little bit more at, he's the old guy in the group. This guy coming in at 19 years old. Big moves for our team here. And yep, he's another one who has 370 minutes this season. So I don't even like. I'm not here to complain anymore because it's not worth my effort and my time. Just sell the team already. If you're not going to invest and let us push for titles, just sell the team, man. Here's what you can do. Sell the team, and whoever buys it from you, say, hey, the only thing that we want in this sale is some sort of agreement that says if we're looking for a player, we get, you're the first person that we talk to, basically, or we're the first person you talk to. And if we can't come to an agreement, we'll move on. But you're not getting money on tickets because the stadium's empty. You're not getting money for titles because you're not winning anything. You're maybe making money on a player sale a year, but that's all going to MLS anyway. What's the point? Why are we doing this? Why are you making us, why are you making us hate? This is a D window. You have the opportunity to buy somebody big. You have a DP slot left. Push. We've got big players who are injured. Lewis Morgan, Dylan Nealis, who's not really a massive player. He's hurt. Sergio Goma hasn't played all season. The players who you're going to hang your hat on are no longer healthy, and your rivals from right down the street are out buying massive players while you sit there and suck your thumb. It's a silly window. It's a silly waste of time. It really makes me upset, but I'm used to it by now. So D window for me. Ronald Doncourt has shown decent promise. I don't know. I don't care. I don't care anymore. I hate this game.
Nice rant. I appreciated that. I'll be honest. I think we need to give more extreme answers on grades. So I'm just going to come out and say that this is an F window.
I thought you were going to give it an A. I was like, shut your mouth.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? I feel like this team should have done, like, this team could definitely make the playoffs with the right couple of pieces in there. Like, defensively, you guys are really, I mean, you're solid. You're very good, actually. Like, you're up there with the top teams in the East in terms of goals allowed. But in terms of goals scored, you are like rock bottom, except for Toronto and probably like Colorado. And you did nothing to do. You did nothing to improve it. Like you said, you brought in 2 players with like a combined 600 professional minutes. That's not solving your problems. 100%, that's not solving your problems. You needed help in the attack. And honestly, I think you just got worse in the attack because you got rid of Caceres. Not that he's necessarily like an out-and-out attacking player, but I think he supports the attack much better than nothing. And I don't even think you sold Caceres very well. You got €1 million for him for a guy, huh?
Not even. I think it was just under $1 million.
Okay, around €1 million for a guy that I saw as your best player for at least like 2 years now. The window is terrible.
Yeah, it's frustrating because of what we are used to. It's not like Colorado, who had the 2010 year and it wasn't with a ton of big name stars or anything, and then they kind of just went back to being what they are. This was a team that had Thierry Henry, that had Tim Cahill, that had Peggy Lee Ndula, that had Bradley Wright Phillips, Sasha Question. I mean, big name players who are doing the job. Luis Robles is in there as well. And now we won't even spend money on anybody who's over 20 years old. This team does not deserve to be a development team. Not with the history that they have. I'm sure I'm not going to go on a super long rant. I mean, again, this is one of those teams that if you make the playoffs, it's a good year. and then we'll sell and recycle and just sneak in again. And this is a team that absolutely leeches off of these MLS rules. And it's a shame. It really is a shame because here's, everybody's like, oh, Red Bull would buy more if the rules were no, they wouldn't. Red Bull wouldn't buy anybody until the day that academy stops producing players that they can send overseas and they all go to NYCFC. Red Bull aren't buying anybody, buddy. I hate to tell you. I just hate to tell you. So it's frustrating. It's disappointing. It's a bad window. It's a bad year. Honestly, not making the playoffs might be the best thing for this team to smack their team upside the head. Because as we've mentioned, it's not that they're not buying players. It's they're not buying players at the right time in the right position or for the right roster rule spot, right? We're not putting the right players from spots 5 to 15 out on the field. We're just utilizing all of our homegrowns and building them up, and that's just not good enough. So, all right, rant over. Let's move on. Take me out to the ball game. These NYC fans were in my mentions last night after we proved New York was red.
Yeah. I saw them all over Twitter. They're like,
yeah,
look at our MLS Cup. Look at our MLS Cup.
And
They're
I was like, I
talk to
can't
us
even
when you win a trophy.
I was like, I can't even see it because your banner doesn't exist, does it? You and your baby banner. Big movements for NYCFC. Lots of good work out of them. Striker Alonso Martinez confirmed today from Lommel SK, a city football group implant. Burke Risha, a defender from Molde. U22 signing Munsef Bakrar from NK Istra, a very good addition so far. Homegrown signing Drew Baera. Andres Pereira on loan, one that went under the radar for me. Another U22 signing in Julian Fernandez from Velez Sarfield, which is a great get for them. They've gone out and gotten 3 number 9s after spending most of the year without it. And 3 very effective number 9s. Bakrar played in their first League Cup game, and everyone was like, oh, so this is what it's like to play football. Because it just changed the game for them. On the out and out for our friends in the baseball stadium, Gabby Pereira goes on to Qatar for a good bit of money. Tati Castellanos out to Lazio for a good bit of money. Tony Alfaro over to LA on trade. I'll let you go first. I'm tired of talking.
Okay. Well, you're probably not gonna like this, but I mean, I'll just say it. I think it's an A window, honestly. I think they improved their team very, very much, especially from where they were previously. Fernandez, like you had said, that's a great get. 19 years old, has tons of minutes already in the top league of Argentina. Definitely a bit of a pricier buy, but I think it'll be worth it. Bakrar, I think, could be the steal of the window for them. I think, like you said, bringing in a striker finally, it will change things a lot for this team. I think that's a fantastic get. Brought in a center back to fill the depth that was lost with Alfaro leaving. And I think on top of the guys that they brought in, I think they did a really good job selling too. Got a huge chunk of money for Tati Castellanos, 15 million. 5 million more, at least in terms of what's being shown, than Brenner for a guy that's a year older. So that's a good deal. And they cashed out on Gabby Pereira too. Obviously, Gabby Pereira, 21, had good potential. Could have potentially went for very high fee in the future, but I mean, you locked in 10 million for a guy who was putting up okay to decent, like okay to good stats. So I think they sold phenomenally well, and I think they replaced it really well as well. I think they've brought in guys where they could maybe make a playoff push as well. They're not far out of the playoffs right now.
No, playoffs are very, very close, and they still will be. I don't disagree with you. I'm not going to give them an A because I'm not going to do it.
In your blood, you can't do it.
No, but I completely agree with you. They went in, they cashed in on players. I don't think Gabby Pereira was going for anything more than 10. So the fact they can get him out for that,
they
great.
sold him for the same money as Brenner. I mean, obviously Brenner, like you said, there's probably add-ons and whatnot, but it looks like at least in terms of base, like just money in and out from the get-go, they sold him for the same amount as Brenner, which is wild to me.
Right, and that's exactly it, right? They're finding good deals and cashing in, but this is what Red Bull thinks they're doing when they sign kids at 18 years old and like, oh, we're gonna flip them for 10 mil, and they end up walking on a free. These guys are putting in the money for proper players and getting them out. There are some other rumored moves as well. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but Thiago Andrade is out as well. He left a little bit ago, but completely new look. You've got a couple new a couple new wing players to replace Andrade and Gabby Pereira and players like that. A pure number 9, which is going to be very, very good for them. That allows Tyus Magno to float out wide. Pereira comes in from Philly just to solidify that midfield. It's a good winner. They got a center back too, give them a bit of center back depth to allow either James Sands or Justin Hack to move into midfield. And the big part is, right, they've got money to play with now. So listen, B plus, because they lost Tony Alfaro, and you can't get an A if you lose Tony Alfaro. That's my new that's my new they've done well. They've done well. This is what Red Bull thinks that they're doing, but they're not, right? And it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating because it's not like City Football Group are sitting on that much more money in an MLS system where you're capped anyway. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you've got the resources to do it. Just do it. But whatever. They play in a baseball stadium. I don't even care. Let's move on to Orlando. Another quick one here as we continue to push here. We've only got a couple more in this. We've only got 2 more here, I think.
By 3 more.
Three,
Orlando,
three.
Philly, Toronto.
Orlando, very quiet, sitting in 5th in the table, just 5 points off of 2nd and like a billion points off of 1st because FCC. Went out and they brought back Junior Urso for a little bit more stability in their midfield, and they didn't lose anybody of note to my knowledge. I mean, what else is there to give, right? It's a C. They brought back a 34-year-old center midfielder, as they have learned. I believe somebody's out for the year. Somebody got hurt. Can't remember who. But either way, they brought him back. Gives a little bit of experience for the playoff push that they're about to do, for the Leagues Cup push, for everything they're about to do. Yeah, I think it's a C. They didn't do much, not much to talk about.
Yeah, it's a C. I mean, it makes sense. The team, it didn't really matter who they added. This team wasn't going to be challenging for Supporter Shield at this point. I think they'll probably pretty safely, unless something goes drastically wrong, make the playoffs. And I guess for MLS Cup, they'll just have to hope they get hot at the right time. I'm also kind of fine with them not doing anything because they made a lot of moves in the winter transfer window. So give them some more time to play with each other and gel, get the chemistry.
Yep. Like I said, Orlando, not much. And here's the thing, right? Not much that they needed to do. They're finally getting, as you mentioned, their pieces together. They're starting to gel a little bit. Duncan McGuire is balling out. Rookie of the year. Yeah, for sure. I think next year's predictions are just going to be whichever striker Orlando drafts, because they all seem to just blow up. Yeah, Orlando, not doing too much. Let's move on to Philly. In the door, you're really going to make me try and say that. Olwethu Makanya.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I thought I did all right there. He's in the door from Stellenbosch FC, a little defender there. And then Ty Barabo, a non-designated player striker, from what I have learned in my research, from Wolfsberger FC, an Israeli international to my memory here. So they add another player up top to work with Carranza and Ure. And out the door, as we mentioned, was Andres Pereira on loan to NYC, and Brandon Craig on loan to Austin. So they get a little bit of center back depth in the 19-year-old South African. and they get some center forward help in the 25-year-old Israeli Ty Barabo. This, once again, a team that in third, 3 points off a second, 11 points off a first, 26 goals conceded, 39 goals for. Not much they needed to do, and they somehow found a way to get better. I hate this team. Yeah, it's a B plus for me. I think the benefits of the players that they sent out on loan to get game time, hopefully for Brandon Craig at least, at high levels that they're going to bring back and be able to utilize is good. They've added, excuse me, they've added youth depth at the center back spot again to maybe be the next guy stepping up, and then Ty Barabo to give them just another option up top. I like it. Good job, Jim. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of covered it all. Just please make sure you do not say anything about Brandon Craig, because you will curse him just like the other he who shall not be named to save his career center back at Austin.
What, Brandon Craig isn't going to go to Austin on loan and be a top 5 center back in the league next year?
Stop. Stop. You just cursed him.
Come on. What? He's just the U20 starting center back. We'll be fine.
Ugh.
Grade?
I'm going to go C plus. I mean, they brought in Ty Barabo, who's probably going to be a guy off the bench, and definitely gives them some more depth up top, which I think is good. But outside of that, they really didn't do anything, kind of similar to Orlando. And I think it's a similar situation. They were ice cold to start the season. They've been much, much better since then. So I think they're out of the supporter shield picture. So might as well just, let your guys who know how to play with each other continue to cook and get ready to make an MLS Cup push or Leagues Cup push.
Who isn't out of the supporter shield picture right now?
That's true. FCC kind of running away with it.
Chris Brady.
Could you imagine saying that 2 years ago?
Yeah, I could, because I did. I just didn't mean it. Here's the thing: if FCC start dropping points, by the way, like there's still 11 games left, and you've got teams that are 3 games off, 2 games off. So it's not impossible. St. Louis somehow is still in this. That team doesn't make any sense. All right, let's finish up the Eastern Conference with Toronto FC, a nightmare of a season that will surely be left in the dust by a newly looked Inter Miami side. In the doors, Latif Blessing, Cassius Mailula, Prince Owusu, and Franco Ibarra. Out the door, Matt Hedges, Mark Anthony Kaye, Ayo Akinola, and Liam Frazier. Is there really any point in even talking about this? This is all for next year. They're done. No coach. Yeah. Their star players want to leave. An absolute nightmare of a. And here's the thing: they gave it a shot. It failed. They can come back and do it again. Franco Ibarra will strengthen that midfield a little bit, which we've talked about extensively as being extremely thin when we started the year. Latif Blessing gives you an attacking option that Victor Vasquez no longer gave you because he was hurt forever. Mailula is a wing player that gives you an option other than Bernadeschi and Signe. And Owusu is a striker that helps out with Diamande being injured. You're losing Matt Hedges in the back, so you're leaning on Rosted, O'Neill, Mabika. A little bit thin there, but again, get some experience for Mabika and get him, grown. Mark Anthony Kaye, apparently a lot of guys didn't like him. They turn the ball over a lot in that system, so hopefully they can change that. Ayo Akinola out on loan. Hopefully that'll get him good minutes for next year. Liam Frazier out on loan. Hopefully he can come in and help out the midfield as well. It's C. It doesn't matter. The season's over. If they genuinely make a push, I will eat my hat. But they're not picking up. They're gonna need likely 30 points from their next 11 games. So good luck.
Yeah, their season's done, and they know that. You could tell by the signings as well. Man, I don't even know where you go with this team. It just seems like a complete mess. I mean, it's clearly what they're massively lacking in is in the attack. Defensively, they could be better, but they're not terrible. But 18 goals scored in the entire season. I mean, you're competing with Colorado for the least goals scored, and that is not a competition you want to be in. And you brought in guys that we were ranting and raving about last season, bringing in Insigne and Bernadeschi. Wow, Toronto's their attack's gonna be insane. They're gonna be torching the league. They're gonna be doing exactly what we're watching Miami do in Leagues Cup right now. That's exactly what we said. And instead, they've looked like one of the worst attacking teams in the league. I don't know how you fix this, honestly. I think you almost have to go do exactly what Miami did and just completely tear it down and restart.
You just took the question out of my mouth. My question is going to be, on day one of this season being over, do you blow it up? Do you blow it up and go from scratch?
The only reason I say yes is because Insigne and Bernadeschi, from I think what we've heard, want to leave.
Correct.
That's the only reason I say that. If they were committed to staying here, I'd say don't blow it up. Try it again next season. Find the right coach to coach this team. But because they're basically 1 foot out the door already, blow it up. This team's a mess. They don't want to be here. It's just going to continue to be a mess the longer you keep them.
Completely agree. I was going to say the same thing. Your star players don't want to be here. You don't have a coach. Get a coach. Figure out the system you want to play. Find the players that fit that system and blow it up and start over, because the star Italian players are not working out for you. I don't know what else to tell you. So go in, build from the ground up, find the players that want to be there, that want to do the work, that want to play for the team, and go from there. That'd be the best way to go about it. But I don't think we missed anybody. I sure hope not. That'd be pretty bad.
I just had to give a grade for Toronto. I'm gonna give it a C minus.
Okay. Yeah. Again, it's a move for the future. Blessing's a good addition. Young in the thing, but Ibarra's on loan, so it's not massive addition there. It's whatever, right? Thanks everybody for listening. We hope you enjoyed our quick rundown of the first half of the secondary transfer window in the Eastern Conference. We are going to get this out on a Monday, which means Wednesday you will see the Western Conference. So if you are looking for Western Conference teams, make sure you subscribe and stick around for that. Lots of moves, probably still to be announced too, so we'll have to react to those later. But things continue to be crazy in this league. We will keep you up to date as best we can. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, so you know the next time we post the Western Conference or other things like that. Subscribe wherever you get your social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or TikTok. Can I say Twitter now? Do I have to say X?
Just say Twitter.
So you can see where we post all our clips. We can interact with you guys. You guys are great to do that with. That's awesome. And then, yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players Podcast. See ya.